In this episode, I'm going to talk about project-based learning. My name is Blair Lee, and welcome to This is Homeschooling. When I homeschooled my son, I used project-based learning numerous times over the years. At first, I didn't even realize I was using project-based learning. The person that told me that the method I was using with my son had a name was a school teacher, and she said to me, "Your son is so lucky that you're able to use project-based learning with him." And it's such a meaningful and profound learning method that I really think that more people, if they understood it, would be using it. It's sort of this holistic, learner-centered, highly academic method. So let me tell you about it. Let me start by defining project-based learning. Project-based learning is a learning method in which students learn by actively engaging in real-world, meaningful projects. They apply skills and knowledge that they have previously learned, so it leads to mastery, where there's this constant metacognitive work that learners are doing. In that way, their skills increase dramatically. Instead of passively receiving information, learners gain knowledge and skills as they explore topics deeply, as they investigate questions, solve problems, and create authentic products. Project-based learning encourages critical thinking, something that's really important to be learning, collaboration, creativity, and communication. Project-based learning is learner-centered. By that, I don't mean that it's student-led. I mean that you are centering on the academic skills and knowledge that your learner has, and then helping them in a collaborative way create a project that allows them to work on those skills and building that knowledge in a way that's really natural as far as how learning happens outside of the traditional school context, how it just naturally, one thing leads to another, and when you're excited about acquiring information and building skills, you just sort of do it. Think about things that as an adult you have learned and the way you approached it. Project-based learning is using that within the context of school. It's going to be a little more structured than an adult would use, but it's similar to that. It's really about creating a culture of thinking and the application within the context of thinking of knowledge and skills. As a part of project-based learning, and thing that I actually think is at the heart of any meaningful, robust, learner-centered journey, is that learning skills are just naturally incorporated into project-based learning. Project-based learning is a multimodal approach to learning. You're going to have the visual, auditory, reading, writing, kinesthetic, those are all just naturally built into the project so that benefits your learner in all future learning situations as those skills become stronger. There's, as mentioned already, project-based learning is a metacognitive approach to learning. So you've got this front-loaded knowledge and skills, and you're constantly applying it and building on it and connecting knowledge within the context of the project. And finally, executive functioning skills, planning, persistence, self-regulation about doing academic work, organization, those all are just naturally occur when someone is excited or engaged within the context of learning. You just naturally plan about what you're going to do next. persistence, that stick-to-itiveness that can be so challenging, you just naturally do that as a part of the project because you're excited about it. Self-regulation about doing, not all parts of anything is fun, but if you know that you're good for kids, fun can sometimes really affect their self-regulation about academic work. You can slog through something if you know there's something on the other side that's going to be fun to do. That it's just the way the humans work. And then organization. Organization, any well-run project definitely has organization. And as you work with your learner to organize so that they can do all the parts of the project, you'll be modeling that executive functioning skill with them at the same time they're using it. I've mentioned front-loading a couple of times, so let me define it. Front-loading in project-based learning means that you prepare learners with background knowledge, skills, and context before they begin a project. This can include introducing key vocabulary and concepts, teaching necessary research and technical skills, exploring models or examples of similar work. So as you think about the project, you need to plan for what skills are going to be used within the context of the project and knowledge. And then you've got to make sure that the learner has those because you have to have them to apply them. And that's the concept of front-loading in project-based learning. One question people ask is, what grade or age does project-based learning work with? And the answer is all of them. With your pre-K to younger, you're probably already doing project-based learning. You just didn't even know to call it that. When you're doing that hands-on work and you're bringing in vocabulary and you're thinking, it would be fun to add to this if we did this thing tomorrow or later today. It's project-based learning. For elementary learners, this is a fantastic age to be doing project-based learning. You're going to want to do smaller projects with this group, although, I've seen people do year-long projects. But with the elementary learners, they're just acquiring this knowledge and skills. And when you have them then use them within the context of a project, it helps them see learning as meaningful, which is important. And it also makes them feel smart. It's like, wow, I learned this and now I can use it. And adults tend to get excited about the projects that kids do. And so that there's sort of this natural excitement that adults have in the elementary school kids' life. Middle school students, those students are really perfect age to start doing projects. So within the context of brain development, your kids there's this synaptic pruning where, hey, use it or lose it is what brain scientists call it. And so you're definitely using it, but when you are using project-based learning, so you're using it within the context of project-based learning, but you're also connecting different areas of the brain. So you've got these schema in your brain, which is where you bundle related information. And when you do projects, you're saying, hey, this schema and this schema, they're connected. Let's build a synapse and then myelinate it. Put a protective sheath over that synapse so that these stay connected. That is what's happening in your middle schooler's brain when you are working on these projects. So there's a lot of reasons for you to do project-based learning with a middle schooler and benefits. And high school students, when this age cohort is excited and grade cohort about the academic work that they're doing, they will often take over the project, and that is fun when that happens. My son and I did a 1.5 year long project that I've always thought of as Are You Studying Politics, where he chose a political candidate, and that political candidate lost in the primaries, and then he started working for local candidates. he became so engaged in this project that he would come to me and say, this is what I want to happen for this. So I had some areas like writing. He had to be working on writing. Well, he was doing nonfiction writing. Well, he came to me and said, I want to do nonfiction writing for documentary scripts. Well, obviously, I hadn't even thought of that. And so he started making these video shorts about topics. And then I said, well, you need to do some computer science work. He said, well, I want to build my own website. And I said, fine, here, you can build a WordPress website. He said, no, I don't want to build a WordPress website. I want to build my own website from scratch. I tried to talk him out of it. So did my husband. And he built a website from scratch. It was like so profound. Think about it. If you could have your high school students start to say, no, and then he would bring books. He would say, hey, we need to be reading this book. We need to read 1984 this year. I mean, it was like really so exciting, so engaging. And when I say engaging, I should really say he was so engaged. Even to this day, it was definitely the best year and a half of learning in all the years I homeschooled. And really because instead of it being teacher-led, it was learner-centered. But I was just more of a consultant than actually the individual who was promoting and pushing the learning. So how do you plan a project? Now, I will be the first to tell you that projects get pretty fluid when everyone's highly engaged, but you definitely want some planning. You don't want to spend a month on something and start to ask the quintessential homeschooling question, which is, am I blowing it? The first thing you're going to do is choose a big question or problem. What real-world issue or topic will drive learning? Think about it. What, for your child and for you, do you think is really something meaningful that they could be working on? And then put that in writing. That's step one. Step two is that you design the project. Now, I wrote a book about project-based learning, and a big chunk of that has to do with designing the project. There are several components to that, and it's not hard to be successful, but you're going to want to bring some thinking into, so how can you design a project that actually, in a meaningful way, for the age and grade of your learner, addresses that real world issue, answers that question or problem. The other components of planning a project, what disciplines will you bring into it? Will it be more limited? So for example, maybe just history and science combined, or maybe some language arts. Almost every project has some language arts in it. It's so easy to include. Or is it going to be all subjects, or all subjects with math pulled out? What's that going to look like? The other thing you're going to want to think about is how big the project will be. Are you hoping it spans a year? Are you going to take baby steps and do a 1 week or a 2 week project? Or something in the middle? Those are all things that you're going to want to address as you design the project. You might be wondering, if I use project-based learning for high school, what do I put on the transcript? So the transcript should reflect the academic rigor and alignment with subject areas. To document project-based learning, you're going to want the course title and description. Name the course based on content. You are going to want to, just in case you're asked for it, you're going to want to have a course description, and you're going to want to have created a syllabus. You're going to want, as a part of that, have the skills and learning outcomes incorporated into it. You're going to, for a high school transcript, you need a grade. Give your child a grade for it. And then you're going to have to figure out the credits that they earn. Align this with standard credit hours. 1 credit for a year-long project, half a credit for a semester-long project. And now, some colleges accept a portfolio. My son, when he applied to college, only 1 did. All the other colleges were interested in just a standard transcript. They did ask me, a couple of them asked for course descriptions and syllabuses for projects. Several asked for a course description and syllabus for science that was done not in PBL, just as a tip. So if you've got any questions about this specifically, the See Homeschoolers Middle School, High School Facebook group is a great place to get information about how you're going to fill out the transcript. So the one caveat that you have to pay attention to with the transcripts and project-based learning for high school students is that so when you first planned the project, you had the individual disciplines, then kids work on the project, and it becomes pretty messy as far as the individual disciplines, and that's part of the strength of project-based learning. But for the transcript, you then have to separate out those disciplines again, and that's okay. If your child worked on a computer science and a writing project and they were really nested, unnest them. Did they work on both of them all year, even if it was this interwoven thing for the year? Yes, unnest them and give them 1 credit for each. And then have a description of the writing and the computer science. And so you're going to unpack them. And it really has to do with, you want the transcript to look at what colleges are used to seeing. Another concern that people have is, what if we don't finish the project? Or worse, I'll have people say to me, we did project-based learning in the past and we failed at it. You cannot fail at project-based learning if your child has applied skills and knowledge that they have learned and into a real-world situation. You succeeded. That's really it. This is a learning method. If you are making connections across disciplines, if you are using academic skills and knowledge in a meaningful way, you have done it. You have succeeded. What you envisioned as the end isn't going to happen all the time. I was going to say often, maybe even often. Doesn't matter. If engagement dropped, okay, your vision for it wasn't realized. That's okay. You can turn the project, you can call it a case study, or have kids do a presentation about it. If perhaps the project was too ambitious, modify the scope, scale it down into something more manageable. All of these things are a natural process, and you did not fail. There really isn't a finish to a project, other than if the answer to the question, did your child apply skills and knowledge in a meaningful way, is yes, you succeeded. Period. End of story. I hope I've gotten you excited about project-based learning. It is a profound learning method. It's purposeful, it's innovative, and it will turn kids on and into lifelong learners. Much love, everyone. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. See you next time.